Was awesome. I cannot think of a better opening act I would like to follow. Thank you so much. I just like to take a moment because and really capture the talent that we've seen in this congregation, and not so much the talent, but just the stories that have been shared since Reverend Festus went into retirement, and we've had guest speakers taking up the space up here and sharing their stories. And I think it's been an amazing, 6 weeks so far, Marlene? 6, 7 weeks? We've heard amazing stories from amazing people, and I love it because it's really been an experience of everyday people, just everyday people going about their everyday lives and sharing their paths and their stories. And I, for one, have been spiritually fed by that. So I just want to thank this congregation for stepping up and doing that. I have to move this because I feel it blocking me. I'm thrilled to be here for a number of reasons. This congregation, this church means a lot to me, and I'm especially pleased that I get to be here at this time, because looking back, I realized that it was about this time 10 years ago that I walked into Unity South Church for the very first time, and I've been coming back ever since. So prior to that, I grew up going to my grandmother's Lutheran church in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was a little kid, and so I don't have any bad experiences with other religions. The experiences that I had included going to Sunday school, and when we did sit in the congregation with the adults, there was always a lot of singing, and there was a lot of reciting. I had absolutely no idea what it meant, but it felt safe, it felt good. As I got older and was maybe able to understand some more of the words, it still didn't make any sense to me. But afterwards, it always ended going to my grandmother's house, and there was always a roast in the oven or a ham in the oven and wonderful desserts, and an afternoon filled with a family dinner and just sitting around and playing cards or playing games. And then it always ended with watching The Wonderful World of Walt Disney and potato chips and onion dip. So that was my setting. So I have really good memories of those early church-going experiences, even though it was more of a ritual, and I didn't understand anything beyond that. And then at some point, my mom decided that the Lutheran church wasn't for her anymore, and she started going off to another church. And at that time, she was a single mom of 4 girls, and the thought of going to church and getting spiritually fed for an hour all by herself, or fighting to get 4 teenage girls to go with her, I'm assuming that she chose the first one and just said, you know what, they're going to have to figure it out on their own later on. So in my teenage years, I didn't have a whole lot of, I didn't really have a spiritual home. When I was 19, I moved to Germany. It was supposed to be for a year, and then I met this gentleman, and 1 year turned into 13 years. And all of our girls were born in Germany, and we didn't have a spiritual practice or a spiritual home, and there wasn't really anything missing, I felt. And then we moved, after 13 years, we moved to Edina. And it was in those early years of being here, within the first 2 or 3 years, that there was something in me, and I couldn't put a finger on it. I couldn't say what it was, because from the outside, I had no reason to be unhappy. We had a great, big, beautiful house that we still have in a great neighborhood that I love. My husband had fulfilling work that paid well. We vacationed in Europe. I had 3 daughters who had absolutely no health challenges whatsoever. I had no health challenges. My husband had no health challenges. My family, extended family, had no health challenges. My family, we got along. My kids were doing well in school. I had every reason to be fully content and absolutely happy, and yet I wasn't, and I couldn't even tell you why that was. And so my husband, who was traveling a lot during those early years, was gone. I think he was in Asia. And I woke up one morning, and I knew that the church that my mom had gone back to after she left the Lutheran church, one of the churches that she was visiting in Omaha, was a Unity church. And we had talked about it, and I wasn't really familiar. I didn't know a lot of the nuts and bolts of it, but I knew that the concept. And so I got up one Sunday morning, and yes, I did have a computer, and yes, I did have internet, but I opened up the Yellow Pages back in 2000, I think it was 2006. I opened up the Yellow Pages, and I looked up Unity churches, and I saw an ad for Unity South, and it was here in Bloomington, and I thought, well, that's close to my house. I can go there. And then I saw that they had Sunday school during the adult worship time, and I said, oh, yes, that's definitely the one I'm going to. So, I got the girls together, and they were still little at this time. And I said, get dressed, girls. We're going to church. And they said, we're going where? We're going to church. They had been to church before, but they weren't real familiar with the concept and what that meant. And so I got everybody in the car, and we drove up here, and I got them settled into their Sunday school rooms downstairs. And this is shortly before Reverend Ken announced that he was transferring to a different church. It was shortly before that time. And I went and I sat in the back row, and I didn't really talk to anybody. And I have no recollection to this day of what Reverend Ken talked about. I don't remember what his message was. And I sat in that chair, and the tears just streamed down my face. And I couldn't even explain why. But I knew that which was keeping me from being content and experiencing what I was looking to experience was being spoken to directly. And it dawned on me, and I didn't even realize this until now when I was preparing for this lesson, that I had been waiting all of these years for happiness to arrive. That I had been waiting for contentment to arrive. And based on what I believed at the time, I was doing everything right. I was doing everything that I had been told to do, and that happiness will arrive. Contentment will arrive. And I was getting so frustrated, and I was feeling a lot of frustration. I was feeling a lot of discontentment. I was feeling a lot of anger. Because when you're doing everything that you think you're supposed to be doing, and you're not getting the results you want, it is very frustrating. And so it was at that time that I realized it's not about doing anything. It's not about achieving anything. It's not about having the right circumstances or the right amount of money or the right amount of health or any of that, but that it was fully up to me. That if I was a person who couldn't be happy with all of the stuff that I had, with all of the circumstantial evidence that I had, if I couldn't be that person to be happy, then, oh my gosh, then nobody really is happy because I thought I was doing everything right. And that really hit me on that day. And it was like a veil had been lifted, and I really got it, that it was up to me. And so that spiritual journey really, and I understand now that there was a spiritual journey going on before, but that was kind of that moment where it was just like, wow, this is what it's all about. And that journey has been continuing ever since. So when I was asked to be on the board, my first question, of course, was, why me? And then my second question was, why not me? And I signed up, and I ran for the board and served on the board for 6 years, 4 of which I was president. And I can honestly say that that experience of being on the board was one of the most challenging and most rewarding experiences of my life. I absolutely look back very, very fondly on that time and take what happened. And I think what I appreciated most about that time was I had made the commitment to myself that, we have these unity principles, and I made the commitment to myself that if I practice these principles at no other place in time in my life, I have to practice them while I serve on the board. I have to practice them serving in the capacity of a board member. Otherwise, I'm going against everything that I believe in. And that was one of the best commitments that I ever made to myself, because it absolutely challenged me through that entire service. And since then, I've been able to expand that commitment. Not all the time. I am a work in progress. I have 3 teenage daughters and a husband at home who remind me, they keep it real for me. They keep things real, and every now and then I'll get something from one of my daughters. How are those unity principles working out for you now, Mom, huh? And that's always a lot of fun. Teenagers are so brutally honest. So in recent years, and it's because of the principles that I learned here and then I practiced here, that I found myself on a journey where I became certified as a professional hypnotist. And I love the work that I do because I think it allows me, well, I don't think, I know, it allows me to combine the spiritual principles that we practice here and take it into a line of work where the person I am working with may or may not believe the same spiritual principles, but in the work that I do as a hypnotist, I still get to introduce that person to the inner resources. And I say I don't have the answers for you. I can be a guide, I can be a coach, I can be a teacher, but I know that you have the answers. And so the work that I do with that person is simply a journey to get them to tap into those inner resources. We call it the Christ within, right? I mean, I don't care what you call it. Anybody can call it as long as it's working for them and as long as it's the truth that they're living from. And so I am thrilled that is a part of my life, that I get to actually practice this in a professional capacity now. But I'm not here to talk about hypnosis today. I'm here to deliver a spiritual experience. And when I was thinking about that, sort of what are my credentials to stand in front of you and deliver a message? And I say I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm not a licensed Unity teacher. I could go into all of the things that I am not. But what I can tell you is I am a practical person. And anything that I truly have a desire to learn, I want to experience. I want to have the experience. And that's why I come to church every week, because I want to experience something that will heighten my learning, that will accelerate it, and that I can take out into my week with me. So just as I thought the ritual of being in that Lutheran church was very comforting and very safe, it didn't necessarily leave me with a feeling of practicality and something that I can stick in my bag and take away with me. So that really is my hope for today's lesson, that you leave here today having experienced something that will seem so very real to you and speak to something at a very deep level, and know that whatever it is that you are seeking, that it's possible for you. And so the title of my lesson is Experiencing the Threshold of Fear and Love. And this is where it gets interesting, because I've only got bullet points. So I think this is what we're going to do next. So is everybody familiar with the pendulum? Okay, lots of nods. I'm going to do the pendulum today. So, and I did come yesterday and I did practice this, and it did work. Okay, that's all I can say. But this isn't up to me, right? Okay, so this is a pendulum. This is a heart that I have from a girlfriend back in Germany who transitioned many years ago, and I thought this would be an appropriate piece to use. So I'm just going to dangle the heart. I'm going to say the word fear. 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 Love. 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 Did you see it move? Did you see it change direction? I am not a scientist. I'm not even going to attempt to give you a scientific reason as to why that moved. So for those of you in the back, when I was saying fear, it was moving this way. When I started saying the word love, it started moving in a circle. My explanation is, and we say this all the time in Unity, and I tell my clients this too, that every thought, word, and action that we put out in the world has a vibrational energy, right? We say that we believe that. And so it's the vibrational, and so it's the same with those two words, love and fear. I don't know, I was trying to say it with the same amount of, or neutrality both times, and yet my body picked up on a vibration that moves through a string and enables an object to change direction based on the vibration that it's picking up. Now that's my explanation. Again, there are scientists who, might have a completely different explanation. The reason I wanted to do this is because when we think about fear and love, and I use the threshold because isn't it many times that we're standing right before one or the other? And fear isn't always those two emotions, and we can categorize, we're going to use those as the two main topics, and any one you can categorize into one or the other. Anger, frustration, worry, concern can all be categorized under fear. Joy, peace, calm, all of that can be categorized under love. But they don't always show up as in-your-face kind of emotions. We don't always feel, sometimes we think of, I'm scared as being this thing where we're shaky, we're nervous, where we can actually feel it, and it's this great, big, huge experience. Or when we feel love, that it's, that our heart is going to burst, and we feel energized and all that. It's very nuanced. It shows up in ways that we are not even aware of. And yet we're always sending out a vibration of one or the other. Do you all remember the lesson that Reverend Festus gave about how we're always saying a prayer, and it's either a prayer of yes or a prayer of no? He broke it down into very, very simple terms, that we're always in constant prayer, and it's either a prayer of no or a prayer of yes, or a prayer of fear or a prayer of love. And so I wanted to do this demonstration just really to invite you to begin to notice how fear shows up in your body, how it shows up in your life, how love shows up in your life, how it shows up in your body, what's going on, what are the things that you're feeling. Do you get shaky hands? Is there something else? Are there triggers in it? Because when we begin to notice what we're noticing, then we can make conscious choices about, do I want to be experiencing that or not? And I listened to Marlene's lesson this morning, and the questions she was asking, do we want someone else to determine what it is that we experience? That it's always up to us. We have a choice. But first we have to begin to notice and become aware of what's going on. And so I think this is a really, really fabulous way to demonstrate, again, how subtle those subconscious messages can be. And I'm really glad that it cooperated. I was actually doing this with someone in my office, and I was a little thrown off because it just stopped moving completely. And I didn't have an explanation for that. So it was interesting. So I gave it to him. I said, take it home, work with it, practice, and get back to me. So we are all familiar with the acronym for fear, right? What do we say in Unity? False evidence appearing real. Acronym for fear. False evidence appearing real. Which basically tells us that fear and a delusion, correct? That we are buying into the circumstantial evidence that is being given to us through our five senses, saying this is what your world is like, and we are choosing to believe that, correct? So I've heard this said in Unity for many, many years. How many of you learned it in Unity? And I know they say it in other places as well. What is the acronym for love used by Unity? I started asking that question. It drove me crazy because I thought, we're all about denials and affirmations, and seriously, we have an acronym for fear, and I don't know if it's a Unity acronym, but that's where I learned it. And that really drove me crazy that we didn't have an acronym for love. I thought, how can that be? We can't have an acronym for fear and then just drop it and leave it at that. So I came up with my own acronym. I'm copywriting it right here and now in front of all you. The debut of the acronym for love. Because it is a threshold, right? We get to choose. So if we don't want to stand in fear, what are we going to stand in? Love. Thank you. Let omnipotence vibrate everywhere. Right. Thank you, Dale. I don't know. I don't know that I can describe this omnipotence. I still struggle with the word God just because of all the connotations it has in our society. There are so many different messages and meanings tied to it. I'm not even going to try and define that for anybody because I'm still trying to figure it for myself. But I do know from experience that when we are standing in that place of fear, we have got to have something that is going to allow us to walk over the threshold into the place that we want to be. And I know from experience that this has been what has gotten me through that every single time. And it shows up in different ways as different things. It's omnipotence. It's that thing that lets me believe the truth about myself. It's the thing that lets me believe in the unity principles. Do you remember what the unity principles are? I actually they were supposed to be printed out, and then obviously they did not get transmitted. But we say that we believe in these unity principles. God is absolute good and everywhere present. Human beings have a spark of divinity within them. The Christ is within. Human beings create their experience by the activity of their thinking. Everything in the manifest realm has its beginning in thought. What are we thinking? Are we thinking from a place of fear, or are we thinking from a place of love? What are we choosing to think? Prayer is creative thinking that heightens the connection with God in mind and therefore brings forth wisdom, healing, prosperity, and everything good. That is a statement of truth. It's not sometimes. It's not if I'm good enough. It's not if I'm deserving enough. It's really, can you hold that thought of truth about yourself? And if you can't hold that thought of truth about yourself, can you find somebody who can do it for you when you can't? Knowing and understanding the laws of life, also called truth, is not enough. A person must also live the truth he or she knows. We have to practice it, that it doesn't become real rattling around in our heads. That's why I believe so much in experiencing. I'm going to share with you, I actually have 3 Bible verses that are my favorites, and I've kind of, we take a quote or we take something and we make it our own, we give it our own flavor and our own understanding, and again, I'm not a Bible scholar, so I'm not even going to go there. One of them did not get printed out, but my first one is from Genesis, the one that says, we are created in the image and likeness of God. We are created in the image and likeness of God. We are created in the image and likeness of God. one of the things that I learned here at Unity, because I was always confused about Jesus as a savior, a teacher, and Jesus and who is this person and everything. And I've come to learn for myself that Jesus was a teacher. And I like that thought of Jesus being a teacher, because anytime you have a teacher, it implies that you as the student get to do exactly what your teacher does. Right? And it's funny because I've had conversations with my oldest daughter, Olivia, before, just because I've been curious about teenage kids, and I know that a lot of her friends and everything go to different youth groups and church, and everybody has church involvement. I said, do you guys ever talk about church and stuff? And she says, yeah. And I said, well, what do you share about Unity? And she's like, well, I don't really share a whole lot. And I said, well, why not? And she said, well, I can't tell my friends that we believe we can do the same thing as Jesus. Are you kidding, Mom? I can't say that. They'll think I'm nuts. I thought that was interesting, how far out of a concept that is for not just teenagers, but for so many people out there. So we are created in the image and likeness of God. This is my second favorite. I say to you, he that believeth in me, the works that I do, he also shall do. And greater than these he shall do. So it's not limited to anything that Jesus did, but he said, go out and be better than me. Go out and be better than me. And greater works than these ye shall do as well. And the last one is, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Be not conformed to this world. Do not stay in that place of fear, but remind yourself of the truth and have the courage to take the step forward. And this is where it gets really fun now, because I'm going to ask for a volunteer. Because, like I said, I want everyone, I think experience moves us forward faster than anything. So the volunteer I would like, and I have no idea, I have not, this is what I was not able to plan and rehearse yesterday, because I was here by myself. But I'm asking for a volunteer. I'm not going to ask you any personal questions, but I would like a volunteer who has something in their life right now, some sort of challenge, the presence of fear in any capacity, in any shape, way, or form, either in a relationship, a circumstance, anything at all. Anybody who is willing to come forth right now and just be momentarily in that fear. Carol, thank you. Thanks for coming forward, Carol. I appreciate it. Okay, so you have something in your, can you just give it a label? Is it professional? Is it relationship? Is it? It's a relationship. Okay, and it's causing fear? Yes. Okay. If I were to ask you to close your eyes and tap into that right now, that fear that it's causing, can you locate where that fear is in your body? Right there. Okay, and it's okay. This is safe. Does it have a color? And you can remain, if it's more comfortable, just keep your eyes closed. Does it have a color? It's black. It's black. Does it have a movement to it? It's stuck. It's stuck. Is it heavy? Is it light? Heavy. It's very heavy. Okay. Now, if you will, close your eyes again. And the meditation, you connected to a spot in you that was love, correct? Go ahead and connect to that spot of love. And everybody here in the audience, I'm going to ask you to connect to that same spot of love right now. Because before we created a circuit board. We created a circuit board of energy, of the energy field of love. And I'm going to ask every single person to create that right now. Not needing to know what it is that she needs to transform, but knowing that greater works than these ye shall do as well. And that we are each created in the image and the likeness of God. And do we believe that? And if you do, whatever needs to be transformed can be transformed here and now. So go ahead and close your eyes, Carol, and just feel. I want you to feel. I want everybody to feel the vibration right now. And that place of love that you connected with so deeply this morning, allow it. Allow it to transform. Did you have a color associated with love?
It's rose.
Rose, very good. I want you to let that rose, let it seep in. Let every single cell of your body become a sponge, seeping in. That rose-colored, whatever warmth. Is rose light or heavy?
It's very light.
It's very light.
And very large.
And very large. Let it get bigger. Let it get bigger. Expand it. Have the expectation that it can get bigger right now, that the Christ within you moves it, and experience that blackness becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and lighter and lighter. Do you feel it beginning to dislodge? Allow it to dislodge. Just give it the instruction to dislodge, perhaps allowing it to spin. How is it? It's better. Can you make it a little bit better? Allowing it to spin. Is it moving?
The colors are mixing and the pink is winning.
Okay, very good. Continue. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Infuse it with pink. Infuse it with that color rose. Infuse it. Infuse it with that lightness. Infuse it with the light. Infuse it with the love. Infuse it. Dislodge it. Give it permission to leave. Give it permission to dislodge. Give it permission to become smaller, lighter. See the truth about not only yourself, but about this relationship. See the truth. Is the truth evident? Yes?
Yes.
Does it feel complete for you right now?
We're getting there.
We're getting there. Can we keep this going?
Yes.
Can we keep it going? Go ahead. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it moving. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Feeling that color seep in. That whole area becoming infused with that light. Movement, that black becoming lighter. Moving more and more, beginning to spin more and more, spinning it faster and faster and faster, just giving it permission. Say, I don't need this anymore. You've served me well. My lesson is learned. It's done. And let this relationship be what it is meant to be. Better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you want to continue? Or is this...
I'll continue on my own.
You'll continue on your own. But do you understand?
Yes, it does. Yes, I do.
Because everything you need for this to heal in whatever way it needs to heal is already within you. And greater works than these ye shall do as well. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give Carol a hand, please. So that is my message for today. That I hope that each and every one of you and myself as well, because I've got some things I'm supposed to do this week that I've been procrastinating, waiting. And I know exactly why I've been waiting. I know exactly why I haven't been doing them. And I need to do them, and I'm still not very excited about doing them, but I know I'm going to feel a whole lot better that once they're done. Because again, I have to go back to that place. I got to put my money where my mouth is. So I appreciate everybody listening today, for being here. Carol, thank you for making yourself available and also for making yourself vulnerable. So I appreciate that. Thank you, and God bless. Are you taking over?
How about another round of applause?